Yes, welcome to yet another episode where we do talk everything African football here on CK Sports and on the pitch side. Clive Chaze is my name. Together with my colleague Peter Tabu, I will look at all the trending topics on the African continent. And in the past 1 week or so, only one thing has been making the headlines. That is the qualifiers for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. They eventually came to an end, and we know all the 24 teams that have qualified for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. Of course, we shall be looking at all the 24 teams. We shall be looking at the teams that have failed to make it, who we will be missing in Morocco, and why we shall be missing them. That and much more on this episode that looks at African football. But Peter, greetings, and how have you been?
Yeah, I've been fine. Just like everyone on the African continent, been catching up on the AFCON qualifiers and who finally made it through. It's been exciting. It's a different qualification campaign. We've played 6 games in a very short time.
In 3 months.
In 3 months, which is different from the usual almost 5 or 6 months like it was before.
Well, there have been a couple of highlights, but probably one I'll pick out is the fact that match day 5 and match day 6 we've been able to watch a lot of these games on TV. The feeling of African football returning on TV, and TV that is accessible to Africans, for me, I think was a very, very, very good decision by CAF for them to finally return into partnership with SuperSport, with the Azam TV and all the other African televisions on the African continent. Because on a number of occasions, we've not consumed a lot of African football in the recent past, yet we consumed a lot of European, South American, and Asian football.
Yeah, of course. Patrice Motsepe and CAF had to sit down and look at the TV deal that they had signed. And to be very honest with you, they had to come to a conclusion that, on the continent, people aren't watching as much African football.
As they should.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, one of the early days of the qualification campaign, so many people had started complaining on the African continent that they were not actually watching games. And the effect was felt. So the fact that now the continent can watch as much football as possible. I mean, yesterday there was an array of games, across the continent in the evening, and I'm sure people really enjoyed that period. So good to have enough football on the continent and people to watch it on TV.
And if the people at CAF are watching, I think we should also report that we weren't able to watch Uganda take on Congo Brazzaville. We don't know for what reason. Yet the game was listed to be
one of those. There was no apology.
There was no apology. Yet the game was one of those that was listed to be broadcast on TV. Probably there were a few technical issues here and there. Very many people were looking forward to watching that game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to watch the game. Those who watched it, of course, said that it was a much better performance than the one we put up against South Africa. That means that 5 games, 6 games played in total. We had, you would say, 5 games where the Cranes really gave a good account of themselves. But of course, Uganda, Peter, is one of the 24 teams that qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations. Listening to the head coach, Paul Put, after that 1-0 victory against Congo in Brazzaville, him saying that it is wrong for people to say that Uganda qualified because South Sudan beat Congo Brazzaville in Juba. He believes that Uganda qualified because Uganda collected the points they were supposed to collect for them to qualify.
Yes, I think the Cranes, you have to give the Cranes their credit, the players and the technical team. They went into this campaign with a mission of qualifying for AFCON. They knew they had a very short period to play these qualifiers, and so the target was to make sure that they come through on top. Now, Paul Put couldn't have put it any better. I feel and I agree that the Cranes, went into these qualifiers and picked up those results, knowing very well that they needed to reach a certain point in the qualification campaign when they are done and dusted. Of course, in a group that had Congo Brazzaville, South Sudan, and South Africa, any nation would sit down and look at a team that they would get 6 points off.
Yes.
Because that was the turning point. It was a double header. And most of the teams that had double headers, made sure they take home the 6 points. And it was always going to be South Sudan, the team that everyone was counting on for Uganda to get 6 points. And after that 6-pointer, I feel like that is when the Ugandan campaign got a new lease of life. When we won in Juba by 2-1, a very good test of a game, because remember, the scoreline says 2-1, but the Cranes had to fight back to actually win that game. And I felt like after that ended, the Cranes, for me, were breathing a new lease of life, and they were pretty sure that they're home and dry.
Of course, home and dry, 6 games played in total, 7 points collected away from home, just like South Africa. They also collected 7 points away from home. South Africa get to top the group with 14 points. Uganda, of course, second with 13 points. And I'm looking at, Peter, I'm looking at the teams that finished second in their groups, and Uganda collected the most number of points. Tunisia in second position qualified with 10 points. Gabon in second position, that's Group B, qualified with 10 points. Botswana in Group C in second position qualified with 8 points. Benin in Group D qualified with 8 points. Equatorial Guinea in Group E qualified with 8 points. Angola, Sudan in Group F qualified with 8 points. Ivory Coast in Group G qualified with 12 points. Tanzania in Group H qualified with 10 points. Mozambique in Group I qualified with 11 points. Zimbabwe in Group J qualified with 9 points. Then, of course, you also had Burkina Faso in Group L qualifying with 10 points. So if people are bitter because of just one poor show against South Africa, I think they need to look back and see how Uganda performed, comparing them with the other teams that finished in second position, but also collecting 7 points away from home. I don't know how many teams collected 7 points away from home, but we are in good company with South Africa, who topped our group, because they also managed to collect only 7 points away from home, just like us.
Yeah, I think it's a reaction thing from fans who are really pouring cold water on the Cranes campaign for them qualifying for AFCON 2025. But I want to reassert and reassure the Uganda Cranes fans that they really need to appreciate and salute these Uganda Cranes players for the job that they've done in this qualification campaign. Uganda has missed 2 AFCON editions.
True.
The one in Cameroon and the one in Ivory Coast. And on both of those occasions, we've seen the impact that some nations have had after they've qualified for the AFCON. You saw what happened to Cape Verde. This time around, they're not there. But they had a very amazing run.
In both editions.
Yes, in both editions, they had a very good run. And of course, you've seen players who have come out of these tournaments because of a very, very good performance. And I also don't need to remind you and fans out there that this South Africa that we are, praising and putting up there has also gotten better because of AFCON. The last edition where they finished third, also their journey. You are in Ivory Coast. You can clearly explain how much South Africa grew in leaps and bounds. I mean, Hugo Bruce, ever since he came in as head coach, I think in 2021, Bafana have not lost at home. I think they've played 18 games and drawn 4 and stuff like that. The Africa Cup of Nations is a different property altogether, if I could say. So for the Cranes to put everything on the line and qualifying is where Ugandans need to appreciate and thank them. They've done a very good job. You go back to so many qualification campaigns and you don't see where we've picked up 7 points on the road, where we have scored 8 goals, where we have picked up 3 clean sheets in 6 games, where we have conceded 5 goals, and we have picked up only 1 defeat. That is remarkable, and well done, Uganda Cranes.
Yeah, by the way, Peter, you talk about the 8 goals we've scored, and actually 5 of those goals have been away from home.
Exactly.
So we've scored more goals away from home than at home.
And also you can see in the 6 games, we've improved in the games that we've played. You look at the games we've won at home. I mean, the 1-0 victory against South Sudan wasn't exactly a top performance. But how about the 2-0 victory against Congo Brazzaville?
Yeah.
You fans who are out there and you've watched these games at Nambole, you would agree with us. The Cranes gave you smiles. When those games were being played at Nambole at 7 p.m. You're really excited.
Some of them even got extra happiness without even watching the games.
Absolutely.
But because of the Cranes.
Yeah, but because of the Cranes. So I don't get it when the Cranes lose to South Africa at Nambole and everyone is throwing stones and calling out players and stuff like that. I mean, we are Uganda Cranes. And by the way, now that we've qualified, if you're out there and you still think you're going to be negative, the tournament we're going to has top dogs. So how about you wait for that moment and hope that the Cranes show up at that tournament?
Exactly.
Other than just failing to show up in one game. And of course for the players, Clive, lastly for me, you learn from your mistakes and hope to do better. So everyone that fell short in the qualifiers, including Tadeo Ruanga, in that South Africa game, you get better by learning from your mistakes, and you can only get better going forward.
Well, of course, before we look at all the 24 teams that are qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations, Uganda, you would say, is in good company when it comes to the CECAFA region. Because Sudan is the other team that qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations in that group that had Ghana. But then you also had Tanzania qualifying on the final day of the qualifiers, defeating Guinea at home 1-0 for them to return to the Africa Cup of Nations. Tanzania are going to their third Africa Cup of Nations. They are first in 1980. They didn't return until 2019 in Egypt. Of course, they missed the one in Cameroon and before returning for the one in Ivory Coast, where they were the only CECAFA team at that tournament. And of course now they are returning. The one in Egypt was a bit remarkable because you had Tanzania, you had Kenya, you had Rwanda, you also had Uganda, you also had Burundi. We had the representation of 4 from the region. Of course, Cameroon we didn't. Then you also have the one in Ivory Coast where only one CECAFA country represented. The one in Morocco, you have 3 CECAFA countries representing. There was a time, especially when it was a 16-team tournament, all you could have, it was a Sudan here, an Ethiopia here. The rest of us were just cheering them on. Today we have 3 going to Morocco before we look at the Pamoja AFCON that Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania will be hosting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good news for the CECAFA region and for the East African community that we have these 3 CECAFA nations qualify for AFCON. Sudan's story is just unbelievable with the head coach who actually defied the odds against his nation in Ghana, Kwesi Appiah, to actually help Sudan qualify. The Tanzania story.
They weren't playing at home.
Yes,
Sudan,
they weren't playing at home.
They don't have a league. Their top 2 teams are told playing the Mauritanian league.
Yes, because of the political instability. But Kwesi Appiah was able to turn things around and guide Sudan to that AFCON. But for Tanzania, interesting story for them. Somehow, unlike Uganda, the Tanzanian golden generation has sort of stayed together even when they qualified for AFCON. Simon Musuva, Bwana Samata, Mohamed Hussein, Kapombe, Aish Manula. I think only John Boko is missing here. But these are the same players that we've known for the Taifa Stars for over the years. And they've again guided them to the AFCON. And probably after this AFCON, most of them are going to sign out and
before the Pamoja AFCON, they will probably hold on.
It's probably going to be so hard for you to see Bwana Samata at 2027. He's 31 or 32 or something like that. If he's there, thank goodness, but it will be quite a while. And
for me also, the other highlights, especially in that game where Tanzania were playing against Guinea, Tanzanians are not known to follow or watch their national team a lot. When you look at the past qualifiers they have played, the national team has always played in an empty Benjamin Mkapa Stadium. This campaign and that game against Guinea particularly, the stadium was full to capacity. They came out in big numbers to cheer their national team.
They came out, and of course the message in the mainland was that it's a final. It's either we win or go home. And you want to see those crowds, at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium. And tell you what, in the first half, they're watching the game with their hearts in their mouths because Musuva missed a couple of chances. Should have won that game way earlier. But yes, for the crowd coming out and the icing on the cake is them qualifying was a good story for the Taifa Stars.
And of course, for me, the highlight after that was our colleague Mike Mwebe, who took to social media to conduct a roll call where he was calling Uganda, present sir, Tanzania, present sir, Kenya, Absent, sir, but we speak good English.
I mean, the Kenyans will forgive us, David Kwalima, Eric Injiru, Osano, and everyone. We are sorry, we grieve on your behalf, but...
No, I'm not grieving.
Please jump on the train and support
I'm not
us
grieving.
and Tanzania at AFCON.
They have every reason to cheer Uganda and Tanzania and Sudan at the AFCON in Morocco. You have Kenyans, you have every reason to cheer Uganda, Tanzania, and Sudan at the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. But of course, Peter, looking at the other teams, Morocco, Burkina Faso, Morocco are the hosts. But even if they weren't the hosts, they qualified with a 100% record, won all their 6 games, scored 26 goals, and I think conceded only 2. You want to feel that they are probably trying to show the continent what awaits the other 23 when that tournament comes around.
Just quickly on Morocco, they were boosted by I don't want to say the return, but the Brahim Diaz switching nationality and playing for Morocco from Spain was a massive boost. He's actually the top scorer in the AFCON qualifiers with 7 goals. He's really he's been pivotal for them in the entire campaign.
Well, of course, Comoros topped a group that had Tunisia with 12 points. Both got to qualify. Morocco and Gabon qualifying. Egypt 14 points. They scored 12 goals, conceded only 2, together with Botswana. Then, of course, you have Nigeria qualifying with 11 points, together with Benin. Algeria on 16 points, scored 16 goals, conceded only 2, together with Equatorial Guinea. Angola on 14 points, together with Sudan. Then you have Zambia topped the group that had Ivory Coast. Actually, Zambia had to defeat Ivory Coast on match day 5 for them to get themselves back
and
into
they did that
the equation.
They did that at home.
Yes.
Kennedy Musonda with the only goal. Yeah.
DR Congo, after collecting their 12 points, they never won a football match again. They had sealed the qualification. They dropped the top Group H with the Tanzania. Of course, Mali on 14 points, scored 10 goals, conceded only 1, together with Mozambique, got to qualify. Cameroon on 14 points, won at home against Zimbabwe after winning their match day 5 game. Must have been against, no, they drew with Namibia, but they had already sealed qualification. Then, of course, South Africa and Uganda. Then you have Senegal on 16 points, scored 10 goals, conceded only 1, together with Burkina Faso. Those are the 24 teams that are going to the Africa Cup of Nations. Peter, I don't know which teams you feel we are going to be missing. Of course, Mauritania, they qualified for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. It was their first.
Yes.
In Egypt, they returned to Cameroon. They were also in Ivory Coast. And you looked at a national team that had grown in leaps and bounds. And they were playing a beautiful, exciting football. Unfortunately, it's one of those teams that are not going to be in Morocco, I think, together with Cape Verde, because Cape Verde was the other that excited fans in Cameroon, but also in Ivory Coast, especially in Ivory Coast. Those two teams are going to miss the Africa Cup of Nations. Yeah,
for Cape Verde, of course, their story was really unique at in Ivory Coast. They got so many talking because of the performance that they had. Small island nation and how they put together a team.
The biggest star was Bebe.
Yeah.
Former Manchester United striker.
Yes. Then of course you remember that most of them are born in Portugal, have Portuguese, they're born in Portugal and stuff. So that is how unique their story was. But with the African continent nowadays, there's no small team, there's no big team. If you don't win your games at home, especially, you're in trouble. Mauritania, same story. You definitely also have to be able to take advantage of home turf. If you don't come through, then you're also in trouble. Then, of course, the other team that everyone has talked about missing out on AFCON are the Black Stars.
Are they a big team or a small team?
They're a big team.
I mean, they're in company with Cape Verde.
No, the Black Stars are a big team.
They have not won the AFCON since 1980.
Yes, they've won AFCON 4 times. I'm sorry, Uganda's top AFCON performance was 78 in the final. Since
and
then,
we didn't win it because of them.
Yes, we didn't win it because of them. They remain with that history. And
they failed to qualify for the AFCON. Bottom of their group, 6 games, collected only 3 draws, while they lost the other games, including 2 defeats.
The campaign has been terrible. Make no mistake about that. Otto, the head coach, has not helped matters. The team has performed.
Is it him?
the off and on the pitch combination
Because
of so
Peter,
many factors that have affected the Black Stars.
Before they failed to qualify for this Africa Cup of Nations,
Yes.
when you look at the last two editions, the one in Ivory Coast and the one in Cameroon, Ghana failed to get out of the group stage.
Yeah, and of course there were signs that the team was struggling with a lot of things that were coming there. We look at the Ghana team, and you're looking at a very, very good team. First of all, Thomas Partey.
A very good team, or a team with very good individuals?
A team with very good individuals and experience. And if that's what maybe other countries on the continent would want to have. Yeah, you have a Thomas Partey who is playing at Arsenal. You have a Jordan Ayew at Crystal Palace. You have
Leicester now.
At Leicester City now, and people who are littered around.
Kudus at West Ham.
Yeah, Kudus at West Ham and stuff. But the fact that they struggled to have that effectiveness, or can I say that character in these qualifiers, working together as a group for them to get results, for me has been the biggest issue. But also the pressure, has been quite immense on all these players. I feel like the Ghanaian
Pressure
players,
from where, Ghana? Rather, from where, Peter?
from government, because remember when they failed to leave the group and were eliminated at the AFCON, there was an inquiry in Ghana, and the captain Andrea, you had to go to Parliament to actually explain to one of the committees, what transpired and all this, and the players, I think, feel like they're not getting the respect that they deserve, and on top of that, they are struggling to get results.
And probably the federation is also not creating the right environment or atmosphere and ambience for the players to perform, because that has been one of the other reasons that has listed. And while people are blaming the coach Otto, then you also have several other people who are blaming the Ghana Football Association for being the reason why the team has failed to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, for being for the reasons why the team has also probably failed to put up a show or to impose themselves in the last two Africa Cup of Nations, which is the story of African football. Because when you look at all the other teams that are probably doing what they are doing, it is because their federations, government, and probably all other stakeholders are trying their level best to create that environment that allows these players to perform, that allows these players to get results, which has not been the story with the Black Stars. We experienced that firsthand when Cameroon visited Uganda twice, when they were playing against Zimbabwe, when they were playing against Kenya. And for me, the things I saw in the Cameroonian camp, especially on match day and all that, I kept on wondering how these guys
are able to get a result.
First of all, a 5-time African champions,
yes,
and they're able to get results. I mean, it is warm-up time, and the players don't know who is starting, who is not starting. The team is out warming up. The coach and some officials from government and whatever are still debating or arguing on who should be starting and who should not be starting. You look at
different camps and
exactly. You have a coach who has two technical teams, a technical team appointed by the government, another technical team appointed by the FA. You look at all these things happening and going on, and you're like, how are these guys able to get results? And they are able to get results because they are that big and they believe in themselves, and they know we either get results or we go home. You want to believe we've heard and read about all these stories in the Super Eagles camp over the years. Yeah. But for some reason, they are able to find their way and they get the results.
Yeah, and
it is not the same story with the Black Stars of late, because probably they were in the same WhatsApp group with these others in the past, and they were getting the results, and they were like, it's okay, we can be in this form of disorganization as long as we are getting the results. It is not the case anymore. You're disorganized, and it will reflect on the field that actually you will struggle to get the results that you need to get.
Absolutely, and of course you remember Otto coming in as head coach. There was a search for a new head coach after the disaster of the Nations Cup that transpired. That also took a toll.
After Chris Hutton
failed to deliver. That also took a toll, because there was a debate whether to bring back Otto or to bring another foreign coach, or but the GFA decided to bring in Otto, who had a stint earlier on with them. And so,
because he went with them at the World Cup.
Yes, he took them to the World Cup. And so you look at all those challenges, and you're thinking some teams are unable to contain all that pressure. And for me, I think that is what happened to the Black Stars. But I think they can reorganize their house And we want to see them in 2027 here in Kampala. How about that?
I have a feeling they're not going to qualify for 2027. I don't know why, but I have a feeling. That's why if they don't, I won't be shocked. Because there's little time between now and 2027.
Yes.
What are the chances that probably by then they would have cleaned up their mess? Everyone would have owned up, and probably they would all have agreed that it is Ghana first, it is Black Stars first, the rest of us should become secondary. Until probably that is agreed upon, it is going to be very, very, very hard. Honestly speaking, they're having a good run with the qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup, and I think they will qualify for the 2026 World Cup. They can build on that to build their confidence and momentum again, but the other me is telling me they are not coming for the Pamoja AFCON.
I think they would have to they would have to bank on that momentum of the World Cup qualifiers to try and come back to the African continent in 2027. Yes,
but of course, Peter, there is still almost a year between now and December 2025, when the first ball at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations is kicked on the 21st of December. Of course, it will go all the way up to the 18th of January 2026. But when you look at the teams that are going to this Africa Cup of Nations outside Uganda, what other team you probably look at and you're like, this team is actually exciting me and we should look out for them?
Yeah, they are perennial. They are teams that have really given a very good account of themselves on the African continent when the AFCON is going on. And to be very honest with you, I'll not run away from the first of all Maghreb nations. You have a Morocco in there. You have a Tunisia. You definitely think, especially Morocco would definitely want to give a very good account of themselves. Then you can't run away from the West African.
You have Algeria.
Yeah, you have Algeria.
Will this be an opportunity for FIFA, for CAF to use this tournament for Morocco and Algeria to bury their political hatchet?
This is way beyond the political difference between Morocco and Algeria. Can't be.
Because remember the circumstances under which was it Morocco that missed the CHAN that was in Algeria?
Yes, it was. And then there's that incident also in the CAF Confederation Cup.
Exactly.
RS Bakane, Morocco and Algeria. There was a bit of a skirmish there. They have political differences that I feel like cannot be buried just over a football game. But to your
you feel this tournament should be able to probably help, because football has positioned itself in a way that it is beyond the sport. It is a lifestyle. It is something that is used to change lives around the globe. Ivory Coast, Didier Drogba had to call on the rebels and the government when they were trying to qualify for the World Cup, for the 2006 World Cup, to stop war, so that they could have this game played and everyone come on board to support us. And ever since then, I think the country has been able to move on and rebuild. We've seen Kaka Kalaza at AC Milan, how he had to talk to Berlusconi, the owner at the time was the Prime Minister of Italy, to talk to the Russian president so that he could stop attacking his country. I think Georgia, where he comes from, and all that. Football has positioned itself that it can be used as a tool to work around such environments that we feel can't be solved. And you feel this is the time where CAF, FIFA, I feel should be joining forces to see that Morocco and Algeria probably eventually
they come together. Football is a uniting factor, that's for sure. And it's a sport that unites color, race, and all that. And I'm pretty sure, I also agree with you, this should be an opportunity for these things to be looked into and put aside so that people can enjoy the beautiful game. It doesn't matter the differences in between there, because we all know the draws. Anything can happen in those draws. Their top seeds are enough, in fact. But yes, as the tournament goes on, they could also meet, somewhere, somehow. But Maghreb nations, West African nations, the Cameroons of this world, the Nigerias of this world are some of the teams for me that Ivory Coast as well, they're the defending champions, that could have a shout in AFCON 2025. Then, of course, you come to, the dark horses, which is going to be pretty interesting. I'm sure we're going to have dark horses at this tournament as well in 2025. There are nations you feel like maybe they're not going to give a very good account of themselves, and before you know it, they are shocking everyone left, right, and center. So yeah.
Is Uganda one of the dark horses?
Unfortunately, no. Uganda.
We could be.
Uganda is not going to be.
I mean, we almost shocked the continent in 2019 if it wasn't for allowances or bonuses not being paid in time and players wasting 2 days of not training when you have a round of 16 against Senegal. I feel if we had prepared the way we had prepared going into that round of 16, we are going to knock Senegal out of that competition and qualify for the quarterfinals. Yeah,
I think we had other factors that stopped us from putting up a show, but also the 2019 team, in my opinion, the Uganda Cranes 2019 team is a bit far off different from the one we have currently. In terms of experience, in terms of, winning mentality,
Halida Awucho, Tadeo Ranga, Timothy Awani. I think those are the only surviving members
of that squad.
Was Isaac Muleme in Egypt? Was he?
He was.
Yeah,
he was.
Isaac Muleme. Those are 4.
Yeah,
the only surviving members.
Absolutely, and now minus those 4 surviving members, you go back to the team that we had. Dennis Onyango, I think Bevis Mugabe was there.
Actually, also Bevis Mugabe, 5. Yeah, 5.
Bevis Mugabe, Moroshid Juko, Godfrey Walusimbi,
Ronald Muchibi, Joseph Ochaya,
Abdul Rumala, the dancing
Mia Farouk,
Emma Okwi. Yeah, it was a team that had been together for quite a while before we qualified. I remember majority of them also played the 2017 AFCON.
Yeah.
Hassan Wasu and all. This team that we have today, we have more young players who haven't been at that stage before, and
they have a full year to prepare.
Yeah, between now and then, you probably hope that they've picked up more football in their legs, so that when they go at the big stage, they can give a very good account of themselves. That stage can bury you or put you up, or put you up again in your career. It's a tough one for sure.
Well, that's all the time we had for you on this episode. Of course, the qualifiers eventually come to an end. Congratulations to all the 24 teams that managed to qualify for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, particularly the Uganda Cranes. Well, that phase closes. Another phase actually is opening, because from the 1st of February to the 28th of February 2025, Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania are going to be welcoming the rest of Africa in those CHAN finals. And yes, we are going to try our level best to keep you updated, to keep you posted with how we are preparing for that tournament as a region. But as a country, particularly, I know there are a couple of people who will be wanting to come to Uganda. So we shall keep you posted with the do's and don'ts. When you're in Uganda, when you're in East Africa, the places to go to, the places to avoid, the food to eat, the food not to eat, the places to be at, the places not to be at, like this place, Rosa Dimes here in Kololo. I recommend it. It is a must visit when you come to Kampala for the CHAN finals. They have a theme nights on every single day over the week. So there is no single day you'll be bored if you visit Rosa Dimes here in Kololo, amongst other places in Kampala, but also Uganda. Peter, I don't know what you're looking forward to moving forward.
Yeah, we're looking forward to, of course, like you've said, you've broken it down, and we definitely will be explaining all that. So all you have to do is, keep those notifications on, because we have way a lot to discuss on the African continent, on the East Africa Pamoja bid, and the AFCON 2025.
People need to know. I mean, people hear about the Rolex, not the watch, the foods. We need to show you how the Rolex is prepared. We need to show you how the Rolex is eaten. You don't.
How much money do you need?
And how much money you need? You don't take a Rolex home. You eat it from where they are prepared it from. People. How many countries in Africa have chigere? We need to take people to Chad Dondo
and explain to them how they eat. By the way, all those courses of meals is something that we're going to explain.
We need to take people to Wandegea.
Wandegea.
We need to let people know that in Kampala we party until 7 a.m. in the morning. Well, other people are going to work, other people are going home to sleep.
It's normal.
And it's normal. That is how we live life every day in Kampala. So keep it locked on our channels. We shall be bringing you all those details. Clive Chaze is my name. I've been with Peter Tabu, my colleague, and of course Brian Ahewa behind the lens.